really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down.
Them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and
them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to. How difficult was it to keep the side motivated and focus on trying and win?
Get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to.
Get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to.
Get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to. How difficult was it to keep the side?
Get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to. How difficult was it to keep the side motivated and focus on trying and winning another test?
I think a lot of experienced players here, Sangha, and they know that the conditions are not a favor of us, and also the weather we can't control, and we were talking about all the time what we control is in our game. So we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing and we've been practicing, and the conditions is sometimes were very good, sometimes very cold, but players show them that their character very well.
Yeah, let's go back to that character and bowling, as you said, in the second innings when England came out again. It was a remarkable change from the body language and the energy the bowlers had in that first innings. What was said up in the dressing room to get them firing? Did you put an arm around them and encourage them, or take them to a corner and give them a good scolding?
Not really, but what I went through with the analyst, I go through where they bowled that first session in the first day, and because of the lot of grass on the wicket, they would have thought that ball will seam around, and they tried few things and which going away from us, and I got all the 4 bowlers and I showed them where we went wrong and where we should bowl, and these conditions and this type of wickets, and they quickly realized, and I said it's your job to keep it tight, keep these lengths, and I think the experience enough. Asita Fernando, Lahiru Kumara, Milan Ratnayake is good. Vishwa Fernando, after a little niggle, and he bowled really well. But whenever I want to say something, I just tell them straight, and they will work on it, and they did in the middle.
Yes, and then that carried on into the batting as well when Pathum Nissanka came in, the good opening partnership. Dimut Kanaratne got out, Kusal Mendes coming in under pressure. You saw that kind of fire and determination in the batting as well. Was that a deliberate ploy to come out and play as positively as they did?
Yeah, from the first ball, the first match, I said bat positive, because these conditions, if you stay long without runs, you will put on your pressure, a lot of pressure on yourself. So I always say that if you see the ball, you hit, but make sure that you rotate the strike, be positive. Like Pathum, I love the way he bat. He didn't bat for red ball for a long time. He was out of Test cricket. He mainly playing for T20s and ODIs because he was after injury, back problem, and now he's playing after a long time. He's very positive, and that's the good sign. Also, the second innings, the way Kusal Mendes batted, and he has little here and there, little technical issues, but we corrected him much as possible, and he's also very positive. That's the way it should be.
125 left to chase down, 9 wickets in hand. The weather's turned cloudy again. What's the key really for the batters today in the morning to counter England and then try and chase down a famous win?
Yeah, obviously it is going to be a swing around a bit because of the conditions, but I think we need to bet positive. You can't stay around with these bowlers. They're master, their line and length, the seam and swing. So if they are bowled to hit, we should hit, and we should look to be very positive and strike the rotation. So that's the key. Keep rotating the strike and play positive cricket.
Well, Sanath, good luck to you and the team. It's going to be an interesting day, and hopefully things go your way. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sangha. Thanks a lot.
125 more for Sri Lanka to record just their 4th Test match victory in this country. The first came in 1998. Of course, Sanath to the fore there with a double 100, and of course Murali. They won by 10 wickets. 2006 at Trent Bridge by 134 runs, and then Angelo Matthews was outstanding at Headingley in 2014, where they won by 100 runs. It was interesting, Michael, in that interview, Sanath mentioned, session by session, putting it together. That's something that at times Sri Lanka haven't done in the series, and with West Indies, it just can't put it together an entire day and then back it up. Is that because they're not playing as much Test match cricket?
Well, both touring teams have had similar challenges this summer, haven't they? They arrive in England on the back of very little first class or Test cricket, with some of their players playing a lot of franchise T20 cricket in the World Cup or IPL. They have one warm-up game. Sri Lanka played the Lions. West Indies had that one warm-up game at Beckenham, and then they're into 3 back-to-back tests. So they are significant challenges, and obviously for Sri Lanka on a day like this, there's the extra factor of the weather and the cold, which is, the opposite to an England team going to Gaul, say, and frying in 40 degrees. So there are significant challenges, but I think he's right that they've, from time to time, put together some good cricket. They've played some good sessions. They've been competitive. They've got certainly a stronger batting lineup than West Indies. If actually you put the two teams together and you put Sri Lanka's batting with West Indies bowling, that's a pretty good side actually put together. But they just have had bad sessions. I mean, principally up in Manchester when we highlighted that first session on the 3rd day. Same at Lord's, one bad session here or there. And suddenly, particularly at the speed with which England play, if you have a bad session against them, they're going to damage you far more than perhaps an England side of my era or Butch's era, where the run rate might be 2.5 runs and over, maybe 3 maximum.
At best.
Now it's 5, but therefore a bad session is going to be more painful for the opposition.
Well, Ath mentioned Gaul and 40 degrees. It's not 40 degrees here, I can assure you that. England are a side in transition. They've won 5 Test matches this summer. They might win their 6th. What they have done well is select. They've been brave and they've been bold, and by and large, these brave selections have worked. Well, it was almost certainly going to be the last day of the Test match summer, and there was a bit of an end-of-term feel from England yesterday. Could they put that right today? Welcome to highlights from the Oval. It's day 4 of the 3rd Test, and Sri Lanka are in a very strong position. Nissanka was excellent up to stumps, 53 not out as Sri Lanka closed 94 for 1, needing just 125 more runs to win. So after this test match is concluded, we move to white ball action. We've got 3 T20s against Australia. That starts on Wednesday, the second game on Friday, the third game on Sunday. That's a day game at 2 o'clock. In between, we've got finals day with Somerset, the defending champions. Their semi-finalists, the first one against Surrey. The action kicks off at 10:30 on Sky Sports Cricket. Whatever happens today at the Oval, though, it's been quite a test summer for England.
If you ask the hierarchy at the start,
Lord's honoured for batting,
and the players would be very aware there's tougher challenges coming, but you can only play what's in front of you, and they've played what's in front of them very well and very powerfully, and they'll want to follow that on at the Oval.
Well, they might not make it 6 from 6 this summer because Sri Lanka are in a very good position here at the Oval. They still might, though, England. What they have done is play some excellent cricket. You can only play the opposition in front of you. That's your point that you made very early on in the summer, Broady. It was only a year ago that you walked off into the sunset, and it feels like this Test side is really in quite a big phase of transition. Would you agree?
Yeah, massively. They've and very deliberately as well, I think, particularly after the India tour. I think Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum and maybe even Rob Key and Luke Wright got together and said, right, what do we need to do to move this team forward? And they've made some great additions to that. I think some of the selections have surprised us when we first read about them or hear about them, but then they've proven to be hugely successful. I put Jamie Smith into that when he got given the gloves ahead of Ben Foakes, where Ben Foakes is the #1 keeper here at Surrey and Jamie Smith plays as a batter. Suddenly Jamie Smith jumps ahead of him and becomes the England wicket-keeper. It looks surprising on paper, but then you see him play international cricket and do a summer of test match cricket, and it really works. And I think yesterday's example of how he was able to get England to a score that's defendable than being a 150 was a great example of that. And he's had a brilliant summer, for example. And some of the bowlers that have been selected, I've moved on, Jimmy Anderson's moved on. There's been opportunities to come and grab wickets and show that you can take that shirt forward, and someone like a Gus Atkinson has certainly gone and done that. And I think the mindset is very much picking on attributes, isn't it? They're not looking at county stats and going, yeah, that's the leading wicket taker in county cricket, come and do it at international cricket. They're going, what attributes do we think work at the top level? Are they right character? Have they got the pace, the height, the movement that can work? Because a lot of the time county wickets are very different to international pitches as well. So the selection has been nearly perfect, I'd suggest, and a lot of credit has to go to the hierarchy that are doing those jobs.
There's quite a big system put in place behind the scenes as well. It's not just Brendan or Ben Stokes or Rob Keane saying, actually, we're going to give this lad a go. There's more to it.
Yeah, there's a whole network of scouts out there that write reports on players. They track players from probably under 17s upwards. They have the Young Lions and then the Lions programme, which Freddie Flintoff is now coach of for the next year. So there's a whole structure that's there beneath the headline people, and that's important actually, because Rob Key and Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes are not going to be there forever. There are changeovers. You know, it wasn't so long ago that Ed Smith was the national selector and Mo Bobat was there as well. So what you need is some continuity when there is change of personnel. If you change people, you just don't want the whole thing to fall apart. So the fact that there are good structures and systems in place is important. And then I think what Key, McCullum and Stokes have done are two things. They're very brave. They back their decisions. You know, it is all very well plucking a Josh Hull and a Shoaib Bashir out of nowhere almost, but a lot of people would be worried about that. What if it goes wrong? You know, this guy's only played 6 games. He's averaging 80 with the ball. He's only played 4 matches. He's averaging 180 in the championship with the ball. If it goes wrong, it looks a silly selection. So to have the bravery to make those calls is important. And secondly, they're clear about what they want, and you can agree or disagree, but they're in charge. They're making the decisions, and they are saying we want pace. We believe that test matches are won broadly by bowlers who are 85 miles an hour plus, unless you go to the subcontinent where they'll pick tall spinners like Hartley and Bashir, and they want batters who can apply pressure. They always talk about being able to soak up pressure as well, but it's not enough to be able to only do that. You have to put have the ability to put the pressure back on the bowlers when the time is required. And they're very clear about that and the style of player that they want. And you have to say, so far, it's working.
What I'd say on the timing of it all, I think that's very planned as well, because introducing debutants and players into a summer that's not Australia or India, get them used to Test match cricket, used to full houses, used to us questioning them, the pressure that everything brings to Test match cricket. In the past, we've thrown debutants in the third Test against Australia. I think about Simon Kerrigan playing here in the fifth Test against Australia, suddenly bowling against Shane Watson, who was lashing it everywhere. It's very different to Josh Hull coming on against Sri Lanka here at the Oval, where he can settle into Test match cricket and get a feel for what it's like. So you're giving exposure to people at the right time, instead of just throwing people in at the deep end and it's sink or swim, which probably in your era of the 90s was what happened. You'd come in against the West Indies firing in at Kirtley and Courtney, and if you fail twice, you're out.
Because most of the teams are pretty good then.
True.
Where does it leave county cricket, these selections, and county cricketers that have ambitions of playing Test match cricket?
Well, I think, just going on from what Michael said, it leaves them in no doubt, I think that's, again, you agree or disagree with the selections, or agree or disagree with the way that England are looking to play, or the type of players they're trying to pick, but you are left in absolutely no doubt whatsoever what you need to do in order to push yourself up for selection in this team. Now, things will not always be this way. These guys will not always be in charge. At some point the wheel will turn and it'll go back to something more akin to things of the past. But right now, there is certainty. Absolute certainty as to what they're looking for and what you need to do with your game in order to get yourself a chance. And I think that's a terrific position to be in. I think back to days gone by when there was doubt all over the place. Nobody knew kind of what they were looking for, or who was the next cab off the rank, or who was most likely to get a gig. And it would be sort of like looking at numbers and plucking players from county cricket who happened to be having a good season that year. It was not much deeper than that. Right
scoring
now,
runs in the final at Lord's and then getting a winter tour.
Correct.
That's the key point that Butch is
absolutely.
making. Back in the day, England Test selection was almost seen. You rewarded people for their performances in county cricket, so there was a much closer correlation between what was happening in the county game and then the reward of selection for England. And in some ways that reflects on the change of county cricket as well. More county games being played early, late season, different conditions, not the quality of the overseas fast bowlers. Lots of changes have impacted upon that. But they're no longer seeing that to be the case. They're saying, what does this team need? Who are we playing against? What are the conditions? And therefore, what's the type of player that we can find in county cricket to fulfill that criteria? And it really doesn't matter how many wickets or runs they've taken or scored in the county championship.
I mean, take this Test match for example. I think we were doing a news cross before the game started, and I said, it would have been absolutely fine to have picked a seam bowler for a new ball bowler from county cricket who's taken 50 or 60 wickets this summer. Bowls operates around 78 to 82 miles an hour, and they would have come in and done a great job. But kind of what is that for? Are you going to be taking that guy to play on rock hard pitches in South Africa or Australia in the Ashes next year? They would have done perfectly well and might well have taken a hatful of wickets, but you're then ruling them out, or you're putting yourself in a position where you might have to pick that player for situations in which they're completely unsuitable. And so England are looking at sort of like what does Test match cricket require in all of the conditions that you're going to play it in, and they've kind of made it pretty clear, I think, to everybody that you're going to need to have certain attributes in terms of pace and height and movement before we're even going to consider you. And I think it's unfair in many ways, but it's also completely fair because you know where you stand.
And the bravery, to go take the Jimmy Anderson decision at the start of the year, that's a really difficult decision to make. You've got possibly England's greatest ever bowler, who clearly wanted to go on a little bit longer, would have loved to have played perhaps to the end of the season, or a couple of more games or whatever. But they were absolutely clear that they felt they needed a bit more pace in their attack, and they've got half an eye on the Ashes in 16 months' time, and therefore wanted to regenerate this side now. And so they made the call, and the interview I did with Brendan, I asked him about that, and he said, well, in the end, Jimmy Anderson came to an accommodation with that. He didn't particularly agree with it, and he would love to have played on, but he came to an accommodation also because of the way they handle that decision. Brendan McCullum flew over from New Zealand to talk to Jimmy Anderson face to face. It's a big moment in any player's career when your international career is coming to an end, so they felt they owed it to him to be absolutely straight with him, but be face to face with him. And Jimmy, we all know he wanted to carry on a bit longer, but when you've heard him speak publicly about it, he said, fair enough, they were straight with me, they were honest with me, and I accept that decision.
The anomaly with that, though, is they're picking Chris Woakes still.
Balance of the side, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not quite a like-for-like thing, because Woakes is their number 7 or number 8, which is an important position.
Yes, and whether Chris Woakes goes to Pakistan or New Zealand or Australia next winter, we're not sure, but ultimately he is a fine bowler in England and brings a lot of experience to the group. What you can't do, and I was chatting to Ricky Ponting about this a couple of days ago, is when their greats of the game left, they all did it at the same time. I think did Warne and McGrath go, and then Hayden, Langer, and then it's just a huge hole in your group, and then it's harder for the leadership to get their messages across to the whole team, because who are your lieutenants to feed messages to? So you need some experience in that bowling attack. It'd be very difficult to go into a test match with Hull, Potts, Atkinson now, because it's like, okay, where are we leaning on? So you need some experience, and Chris Woakes is that senior bowler right now. Whether he'll be that senior bowler in Australia, we don't know, but by then there's bits of experience that's come back. Ben Stokes would be back bowling and hopefully in the side as well. So, there's that famous line, as I can't remember who said it, you don't win anything with kids. It's great to give exposure to people.
Alan Hansen, wasn't it?
Alan Hansen. It's great to give exposure at the right time, but you need those bowlers looked after by a senior figure who's been there and done it, and Chris Woakes has done that. So yes, it was on paper when I saw Jimmy Anderson has been is not going to get selected, but Chris Woakes was. I thought that's a bit odd. It doesn't make any sense to me. But actually, having seen how the summer's played out, it does make a lot of sense to me. And Chris Woakes has done what Chris Woakes does in England, been very successful.
In your opinion, who has been the most inspired selection that we've seen that's come slightly left field?
Great question. I think the sticking with Zach Crawley under immense pressure and scrutiny was probably the strongest decision. That would have been easy to go, he's nicked one, I think it's time to move on. But I think Brendan particularly saw an amazing ability to play freakish innings that we saw at Old Trafford in the Ashes. He's a better player against better bowling. So yes, he might go back to Kent in April and May and nick 78 miles an hour, but actually he's got more ability to score a double hundred at the MCG potentially in a crucial Ashes match. So I think the strength of character to stick with someone who's hugely popular in the changing room brings a lot to the group, and backing that he will score runs at some stage is very un-English. It's these guys unfortunately in their test careers would probably have had 5 goes and then we're moving on. So I think that was probably the strongest and hardest decision to stick with. But there's been many. Josh Hull this week is probably the most surprising, because at the start of the summer, I've got to be honest, I love watching cricket, I love bowling, hadn't really heard of him, I didn't know what he did, but someone's picked him out from attributes and brought him in. I think that's probably the most surprising selection, but he comes in and gets 3 for 30, and ultimately, yes, a caught cover, first test match wicket, awesome, but it was that in-swinger to the tail ender that pitched on middle, was canning into middle and leg, that left arm angle brings. So I'm not saying he's the most inspired selection of Brendan McCullum's era. He's the most surprising, but you can see why.
And they're all doing pretty well when they come in, which we've focused here on selection, but the other aspect to it is the culture then and the environment of the dressing room that they come into. If you listen to Tom Hartley talk in India, he was just, both publicly and privately, he was saying, this is just a fantastic environment. I'm coming into a dressing room that is so, the people are so approachable, it's so much fun, and so these young players who are coming in with very little experience behind them are being made to feel very welcome, and made to feel very backed by a captain who has particularly good emotional intelligence, I think, and he's very empathetic with people. And we made the point yesterday on the paper review, Butch, about Freddie Flintoff becoming the new Lions coach. You know, people like Freddie Flintoff and Ben Stokes have been through a range of experiences and a variety of experiences in life. I think that makes them very empathetic with young players. So selection, a tick, and also then for these, you know, surprising picks to come into a culture and an environment that is helpful to them to start immediately with success.
Same question to you that I asked to Stuart. Who do you think has been the most inspired left field selection?
There have been a lot of them. I mean, Ben Duckett to open the batting has been superb. Shoaib Bashir out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, with so little first-class experience behind him. Picked because they wanted tall spinners to drive the ball into the surface in Indian conditions, and he now looks to me like a very, very fine off spinner. I mean, some of the way that he was able to sort of control an innings for Ben Stokes in the Test match at Trent Bridge, and he also clearly has the ability to give it a real rip as well, and doesn't seem to be phased in the slightest by batters having a go at him. So England have been desperate to find a spinner since Graham Swan. Moeen Ali has stepped into that breach quite nicely, but with him I think you've got a real star for the future, which will really help England in terms of conditions all over the place, but will also really help their fast bowling stocks too, because if you've got a bowler that you can rely on to bowl you 25-30 overs in a day, your quicks aren't putting all those miles into their legs and are bowling more overs when it's optimal for them to do so.
The seam bowling stocks look pretty good if everyone's fit, and maybe Jofra to come back as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of going to Australia with Jofra and Mark Wood, Gus Atkinson, Ollie Stone, these sort of guys, at the moment, as we sit right now with a few niggles floating around, it's quite a difficult squad to pick for Pakistan potentially. But, you know, I think with the stock of, if you can get everyone fit, that is very exciting. But the crucial part of that is getting everyone fit and ready to go.
That is down the line. There is a game of Test cricket to win here at the Oval, and at the moment, Sri Lanka have all the cards.
We haven't had a lot of play. We've had a whole day's play yet.
No, well, just about.
Just about a day's play. So the wicket's really only 1 day old. So this could end up being a really intriguing Test match. Sri Lanka not that far behind now. The wicket's going to get a little bit worse and turn and bounce as the game goes on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what unfolds over the next 3 days.
But this game might be won on small margins. Bit of weather around. Need to get the job done.
England need to break this excellent partnership. Dananjaya De Silva and Kamendu Mendes have been their best two batters in the series, and they play brilliantly here again.
Top edge, and this should be out. Bashir.
Redemption for Hull. Put Dananjaya down last night, picks up his wicket this morning, and it's a big breakthrough.
Swing and given. It's another wicket for Josh Hull. He can barely contain a smile as he walks back down to fine leg to the applause and cheers from the Oval crowd.
263 all out from 61 overs and 2 balls.
Here we go.
I think for Sri Lanka, I think they actually knew how to bowl to Joe Root in the first innings. They worked out a way to bowl to Harry Brook. The one they couldn't bowl to were both Duckett and Pope, and they're both back in the shed. So they've got a little bit of hope now. If they can execute like they did on the morning of day 2, then and pick up a couple of wickets along the way, they find themselves right back in this game.
Oh, now that's close. It's full and given.
Sri Lanka right in this game.
Oh, now close. Yes, given.
These are incredibly valuable runs here for England.
What a joy to the Oval crowd. Stone's got a job to do to stay with Jamie Smith.
They're going to call that the shot of the day. Got themselves a long way back in front in the Test match. 4 overs later, they find themselves in trouble again.
Jamie Smith was absolutely epic there. A real shame that he lost his wicket just on the stroke of tea.
Have got England right back into this contest though, Jamie Smith.
But, you know, with the movement that we've seen, chasing anything is not going to be particularly straightforward. So the game is right in the balance. Sri Lanka can be incredibly proud of their efforts. But my goodness me, we've got a Test match in our hands from here.
This game has progressed today, I tell you.
218-run England lead. We're happy with their day's work so far, Sri Lanka. A lot of hard work to do with the bat.
Really good start to this run chase.
And put Sri Lanka in a strong position, needing 125 more runs to win. We are all set for a fantastic day tomorrow.
Well, it is all set up perfectly for what should be the last day of the Test match summer for England, light and weather permitting. The lights are on, it is marginal, but they are out there, and we have a start on time. Sri Lanka need 125, England need 9 wickets. Sri Lanka have won 3 Test matches in England, 1998 here at the Oval, 2006 at Trent Bridge and 2014 at Headingley. Could they make it a 4th Test match win in England? They need 125 to do just that. Man Sanath Jayasuriya was there for that famous win on this ground in '98. He's here now. He'll be hoping for the same intent from these two in particular. Nissanka has played brilliantly. Kusal Mendis has played really well. The challenge is going to be seen from that pavilion end, and I reckon Shoaib Bashir from the Vauxhall end. First ball, day 4. Good morning, Kumar Sangakkara.
Good morning, Nasser. I think Sanath was there in 2006 for the Trent Bridge win as well. Both pitches here at the Oval and then at Trent Bridge were very similar to the ones we get a goal when we turned up at the cricket ground. But this one's slightly different. The weather's slightly different as well. But similarly, a great opportunity for Sri Lanka.
Thought these two got their intent spot on. For all the talk of Bazball and the way England go about it, hope they were watching the Sri Lankan top 3, because they went at 6 and over with risk-free cricket, just playing proper cricket shots. 94 in 15 overs. Plenty of batting to come. Matthews and Chandimal, and then De Silva and Mendis.
And get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now. And get them out for 150 was really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah, let's talk about being...
He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants...
Role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing and we've been practicing, and the
difficult was it to keep the side motivate and focus on trying and winning another test?
I think a lot of
Difficult was it to keep the side motivate and focus on trying and winning another test?
I think a lot of
Difficult was it to keep the side motivate and focus on trying and winning another test?
I think a lot of experienced players here, Sangha, and they know that the conditions are not a favor of us, and also the boys did really well up to now.
Yeah,
The boys did really well up to now.
let's talk about being 2-0 down and coming to the last test. The weather is not great, not what Sri Lankans are used to. How difficult was it to keep the side motivate and focus on trying and winning another test?
I think a lot of experienced players here, Sangha, and they know that the conditions are not a favor of us, and also the weather we can't control, and we were talking about all the time what we control is in our game. So we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. It's really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the bowls really good. I think a lot of hard work for us coming from that part of the world, and I think the boys did.
They got lost in it, so it's again a real interesting point to make how the dressing room react.
They're going to have to hurry. They do. Backing up's good. Let's have a quick word with Kumar Sangakkara, who's in our third man seat. Kumar, this will be a pretty special feeling and a special win for your boys, won't it? Sri Lanka have played well.
Yeah, I think it'll mean a hell of a lot to this team. I think coming into Sri Lanka, into England with an inexperienced side, I wasn't really sure what they would have planned and what they would have expected to get out of a tour like this, playing against such a good side. But what's really stood out in this series is, number one, the skill of some of the younger players. In terms of the Kamidu Mendis's, Pathum Nissanka in this, but more importantly, the willingness to fight and compete. I'm just going to go back to...
He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants... Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants... Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants... Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants to bowl... Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants to bowl... Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants... Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants... Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Bashir obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so he wants to bowl into the foot marks, but Stone might change end. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change end. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. That's the bit. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. That's the bit. Well, we reckoned up here it was time for spin, and Ollie Pope feels the same. He might nudge Stone down the other end. Parashar obviously wants to bowl this end because Hull has been bowling the far end, so we want to bowl into the footmarks, but Stone might change ends. That's the
role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing role is in our game, so we were discussing a lot of things about those areas, but the control is the fielding, bowling and batting. We've been discussing